The screech of failing servos echoed through the maintenance shaft as Maya Chen tightened the last bolt on the facility's environmental control unit. At 16, she was the youngest apprentice mechanic at the Meridian Defense Complex, a sprawling military installation buried deep within the Rocky Mountains. Most people saw her as just another teenage prodigy fast-tracked through the system, useful for fixing things, but otherwise admirable. They didn't know she could hear the machines sing. Maya sat back on her heels, wiping sweat from her forehead with a grease-stained sleeve. The environmental unit hummed contentedly now, its rhythm smooth and steady. She'd always had a gift for understanding machinery, sensing the subtle vibrations and frequencies that signaled their health or distress. It wasn't something she could explain to others. They'd probably think she was crazy. But tonight, there was a different song echoing through the facility's depths, a discordant note that made her bones ache and her teeth clench. She'd been hearing it for days now, growing stronger with each passing hour. It wasn't mechanical, at least not entirely. It carried an organic resonance that defied explanation. Maya checked her datapad. Her shift had officially ended 20 minutes ago, but no one would notice if she investigated the strange frequency. The night crew was skeletal at best, and she knew every blind spot in the security system. Sometimes being invisible had its advantages. Following the vibration led her deeper into the facility than she'd ever ventured before. The maintenance passages grew narrower, the air thick with the ozone smell of high-energy systems. Warning signs in multiple languages plastered the walls. Restricted area. Authorized personnel only. Lethal 4C authorized. She should have turned back. But the song pulled at her, a melody of pain and defiance that she couldn't ignore. Maya moved carefully, using her technical credentials to bypass security checkpoints while avoiding active sensors. The deeper she went, the more sophisticated the security measures became. This wasn't just some classified research wing. This was something else entirely. The vibration peaked as she reached a massive blast door marked simply Project Stormkeeper. Maya's heart pounded as she examined the security panel. This was far beyond her clearance level, but there was always a way through if you understood how systems thought. She pulled out her diagnostic tool and began probing the door's electronic brain. It took 17 minutes of careful manipulation before the locks disengaged with a pneumatic hiss. Maya held her breath as the door slowly opened, revealing a cavernous chamber bathed in ethereal blue light. Banks of quantum computers lined the walls, their processing cores pulsing with barely contained power. But it was what lay in the center that made her gasp. Suspended in a web of energy fields and restraints was a dragon. Not a machine, not a genetic experiment, but an actual dragon. Its scales shimmered like polished obsidian, shot through with veins of living lightning. The creature was massive, easily the size of a military transport, yet somehow managed to convey an air of elegance even in captivity. Multiple restraining systems pinned its wings and limbs, while more exotic devices Maya didn't recognize pulsed with strange energies. The dragon's eyes opened, revealing irises that swirled with cosmic fire. They fixed on Maya with an intensity that froze her in place. She expected fear, but instead felt only wonder. The creature radiated age and power and wisdom beyond human comprehension. You hear it, don't you? The dragon's voice resonated in her mind, rich and ancient. The song of bound lightning and imprisoned stars. The disharmony of forces that should flow free. Maya nodded, unable to find her voice. The dragon's presence filled the chamber, despite its restraints. I am Eric's, the dragon continued. Once I soared between the stars, guardian of ways now forgotten. But your people's weapons caught me unaware, drew me down from the void. They seek to understand my nature, to replicate my power. A note of bitter amusement entered its mental voice. They do not understand that my gifts cannot be dissected or reduced to formula. They're hurting you, Maya whispered, recognizing the pain hidden beneath the dragon's proud words. The restraining fields weren't just holding it. They were actively suppressing something fundamental to its nature. A necessary pain, they believe. But there are greater hurts coming, little one. I was pursuing a threat when they caught me. A darkness that devours stars. It follows in my wake, and your world is not ready. Maya's mind raced. She should report this, tell her superiors. But they'd never believe her. She'd likely be arrested just for being here. And something told her that time was running out. I can help, she said, surprising herself with her own certainty. I understand systems, how they work together, how they can be convinced to work differently. Eric's gaze seemed to peer into her very soul. And why would you risk everything to aid me, young one? I am not of your kind. Maya thought of all the times she'd been dismissed, overlooked, treated as nothing more than a useful tool. Because everyone deserves to fly free. And because sometimes the most important voices are the ones nobody bothers to hear. The dragon was silent for a long moment. Then she felt its approval wash over her like a warm breeze. Perhaps there is hope for your kind after all. Very well, Maya-Chen. Let us see what harmony we can create together. As Maya began examining the restraint systems with new purpose, she knew her life would never be the same. But for the first time, she felt like she was exactly where she needed to be. Maya's hands moved swiftly across the control interfaces, her mind processing the complex web of systems holding Eric's captive. The quantum-locked restraints weren't just physical barriers. They were mathematical constructs made real, equations given form to bind a creature that existed partially outside normal spacetime. These containment fields, she murmured, they're not just holding you. They're trying to analyze you, break down your essence into data they can understand. Her fingers danced across the diagnostic panel, reading the facility's attempts to quantify the unquantifiable. Your people believe all things can be measured, categorized, controlled, Oryx replied, a note of sadness in its mental voice. They do not understand that some forces must remain mysterious to remain true. Maya nodded absently, her focus on the system architecture. The containment grid was a masterwork of engineering, but like all human creations, it had flaws. Patterns within patterns, rhythms that could be understood if you knew how to listen. The main power grid is isolated, she explained, but the diagnostic systems are networked. They have to be, to process all the data they're collecting from you. If I can create a feedback loop in the analysis routines. She trailed off, fingers flying across her datapad as she wrote code on the fly, using her maintenance credentials to slip through security protocols. The facility's systems recognized her as harmless, just another technician doing her job. Their greatest weakness was assuming she couldn't understand what she was seeing. A warning klaxon suddenly blared through the chamber. Maya's heart seized. Had they detected her intrusion? But no, this was something else. The facility's external sensors had picked up something in high orbit, something massive that hadn't been there before. They come, Oryx said grimly. The Void Hunters. They followed my quantum wake here, as I feared they would. Your world has perhaps hours before they begin their harvest. Maya's fingers moved faster. Then we better get you out of here quickly. The people in charge need to know what's coming, but they'll never believe me. They need to see you, to understand. She had created a cascade of false sensor readings, making the containment systems think they were getting cleaner data by operating at higher power levels. But the real readings were being diverted, creating a growing instability in the field harmonics. There, she whispered. When I trigger this sequence, it'll cause a resonance spike in the quantum locks. The system will try to compensate by drawing more power, but it'll create a feedback loop. You'll have maybe 30 seconds before the backups kick in. And in those 30 seconds, Maya managed a shaky smile. In those 30 seconds, you remind them why dragons aren't meant to be caged. She took a deep breath, then executed her code. The containment field flickered, its steady blue glow becoming erratic. Warning messages flooded the displays as the system tried to correct the cascading errors Maya had introduced. Oryx's eyes blazed. The dragon's form seemed to shift, becoming somehow more, as if what they had been containing was only a shadow of its true self. Maya felt reality bend as Oryx exerted its power, pushing against the weakened fields. The chamber filled with a high-pitched whine as the containment grid began to fail. Crystalline patterns of frost formed on every surface as the dragon's true nature bled through, bringing with it the cold of interstellar space. Maya huddled against a computer bank, watching in awe as Oryx's form grew more magnificent with each passing second. The restraints shattered with a sound like breaking stars. Oryx unfurled wings that seemed to contain galaxies, their span impossibly large yet somehow fitting within the chamber. Reality itself appeared to bow around the dragon's true form. "Come," Oryx commanded, lowering its head to Maya's level. "The harvesters of the void will not wait, and we have much to do before they arrive." Maya scrambled onto the dragon's neck, finding handholds among scales that felt like polished stone yet radiated warmth. As security forces finally responded to the containment breach, Oryx gathered its power. The chamber's ceiling exploded upward as the dragon launched itself skyward, Maya clinging tightly as they punched through layer after layer of the facility. Emergency bulkheads tried to slam shut, but they were far too slow to catch a creature born to sail the solar winds. They erupted from the mountain like a reverse meteor, Oryx's power wrapping them in a protective field that turned the air itself aside. Maya caught a glimpse of pursuit ships scrambling from hidden hangars, their pilots completely unprepared for what they were seeing. "Hold tight, little harmony singer," Oryx's voice echoed in her mind. "Let us show them how those born to freedom truly fly." As they soared higher, Maya caught her first glimpse of what had triggered the facility sensors. Something vast and dark was passing through the outer solar system, a shape that hurt her eyes to look at directly. The Void Hunters had arrived, and Earth's first line of defense was now officially a fugitive dragon and a teenage mechanic. Maya laughed, the sound equal parts terror and exhilaration. Somehow, she knew this was exactly where she needed to be. The Earth fell away beneath them as Oryx climbed through the atmosphere, military aircraft scrambling in their wake like angry wasps. Maya's mind raced, processing their situation through the lens of systems and patterns. The pursuit ships were F-35 Thunderstrike variants, quantum-enhanced engines pushing them to speeds that should have been impossible in atmosphere. But impossible was relative when you were riding a cosmic dragon. "They're coordinating through quantum entanglement relays," Maya said, reading the electromagnetic patterns in the air around them. "Traditional jamming won't work. We need to." An energy beam lanced past them, the air crackling with displaced power. Oryx banked smoothly, its movements defying physics in ways that made Maya's head spin. "Your military technology is impressive," the dragon commented, "but young. They reach for the stars without understanding their music." Another beam sliced through their previous position, though their enthusiasm is noteworthy. Maya pulled out her datapad, fingers flying across its surface. The pursuing aircraft were networked, sharing targeting data and flight trajectories. But networks had nodes, and nodes could be manipulated if you understood their language. "The quantum relays have to sync periodically to maintain coordination," she explained. "If I can predict the sync pattern." She trailed off, focusing on the streams of data she was pulling from the electromagnetic noise around them. Oryx dove through a cloud bank, its power turning the water vapor into crystalline patterns that confused the pursuer's sensors. "You continue to surprise me, Harmony Singer." Most humans would be frozen in terror by now. Maya managed a shaky laugh. "Oh, I'm terrified. But terror is just another frequency. And I think..." Her datapad chimed as her calculations completed. "Got it. The next sync is in 3 seconds. When I say now, do something impossible." The dragon's amusement rippled through their mental link. "Impossible is my natural state." Maya counted down in her head, watching the electromagnetic patterns shift. "Now." Oryx folded space. There was a moment of absolute discontinuity as they slipped between the quantum sync pulses. Maya felt her consciousness stretch like taffy, her perception expanding to glimpse realities that human minds weren't meant to process. Then they snapped back to normal space, but everything was different. The pursuing aircraft's perfect formation dissolved into chaos as their quantum network tried to reconcile their target being simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. Warning lights flashed across cockpits as targeting systems crashed, unable to process the paradox Maya had created. Elegant, Oryx approved. You turned their own synchronization against them. Maya was about to respond when she saw something that made her blood freeze. A massive shape was descending through the upper atmosphere. A Meridian defense platform, one of the orbital weapons installations that protected Earth from external threats. Its main cannon was already charging, energy readings climbing to levels that made her datapad sensors scream in protest. "They're going to fire the particle lance," she said, horror creeping into her voice. "That thing can punch holes through small moons. We need to show them why this is unwise." Eric's interrupted. The dragon's form began to shift, its scales rippling with patterns that hurt Maya's eyes to look at directly. "Hold tight and trust in harmony." The defense platform's particle lance fired, a beam of concentrated destruction that could have vaporized a small city. But Oryx met it with something older than human weapons, more fundamental than physics itself. The dragon sang. It was a sound Maya felt in her bones, in the spaces between atoms, in the quantum foam of reality itself. The particle beam struck a wall of pure harmony and shattered, its energy dispersing into fractal patterns of light that danced across the sky like aurora borealis. The defense platform's systems went into emergency shutdown, unable to process what had just happened. Maya stared in awe at the lingering patterns of light, recognizing mathematical sequences that she'd only ever seen theorized. That was the music of the spheres," she whispered. "The fundamental frequency of space-time itself." "One of them," Oryx confirmed. "Reality has many songs, if you know how to listen. Your weapons are powerful, but they lack harmony. They try to impose order through force, rather than finding the natural rhythms of the universe." Maya's mind was already spinning with implications. "Could you teach me? Not the power itself, but the principles. Understanding how these frequencies interact could revolutionize our technology, help us defend against the void hunters." A massive shadow passed over the sun, and Maya's words died in her throat. The shape she glimpsed earlier in orbit was descending, its true scale becoming apparent as it entered the atmosphere. The Void Hunter vessel was vast beyond comprehension, its surface a non-Euclidean nightmare that seemed to eat light itself. "I fear we have run out of time for lessons," Oryx said grimly. "The hunters move faster than I anticipated. They sense my presence, know that their quarry is here. We must warn your leaders, make them understand what comes." "They just tried to shoot us down with their biggest gun," Maya pointed out. "I don't think they're in a listening mood." "Then we must make them listen. Your human weapons cannot stop what comes, but perhaps human ingenuity, combined with dragon harmony, might find a way. You have shown me that your people are capable of understanding more than I assumed. Now we must convince them to look past their fear and see the greater threat." As they turned toward the horizon, Maya felt the weight of their task settling onto her shoulders. They had to unite a world that wanted them dead, teach them to comprehend cosmic forces beyond human understanding, and somehow prepare for an invasion by beings that devoured reality itself. All in a day's work for a teenage mechanic and her dragon ally. Maya had always understood machines better than people. Machines followed logical patterns: input, process, output. People were messier, their reactions governed by fear, pride, and institutional momentum. As she stood in the shadow of Eryx before the hastily assembled United Earth Defense Council, she wished humans came with diagnostic readouts. The council chamber was a converted aircraft hangar at Peterson Space Force Base, chosen because it was the only facility that could accommodate both a cosmic dragon and the emergency meeting of Earth's military leadership. Armed guards lined the walls, their weapons trained on Eric's despite the obvious futility. The Dragon's earlier demonstration against the orbital defense platform had made conventional weapons a formality at best. "Let me understand this," General Sarah Chen said, her voice cutting through the tense atmosphere. Maya started at hearing her aunt's voice. She hadn't known Sarah would be here. "You're telling us that an alien force is about to invade Earth, and our only hope is to trust the very creature that just broke out of our most secure facility." "The Void Hunters are not mere invaders," Oryx responded, its mental voice reaching everyone in the chamber. "They are entropy given consciousness, absence made hungry. They devour reality itself, leaving nothing but cosmic silence in their wake." Maya stepped forward, forcing herself to meet the assembled leaders' skeptical gazes. "Show them," she said to Oryx. "Show them what you showed me." The Dragon's power rippled through the hangar, and suddenly they weren't there anymore. Or rather, they were there, but also somewhere else. The council members gasped as space itself seemed to fold around them, revealing a vision of absolute horror. They watched as a living darkness descended on a distant star system. Whole planets were unmade, their fundamental frequencies disrupted until they collapsed into quantum foam. The star itself was consumed, its light and energy converted into something that hurt the human mind to perceive. "This was the Procyon system," Oryx explained as the vision faded. 3 weeks ago by your time. The hunters move from star to star, growing stronger with each reality they consume. I have spent millennia trying to stop them, to preserve the great song of existence, but they have learned, adapted. They caught my trail as I searched for new harmonies that might counter them. And now they're here," Maya added, pulling up data on her pad. "The gravitational distortions are already affecting our solar system. Saturn's rings are showing disrupted patterns, and solar wind parameters are fluctuating in ways our models can't explain." General Chen's expression had shifted from skepticism to grim understanding. "How long do we have?" "Days, perhaps," Oryx replied. "They move faster now that they sense my presence, but there might be a way to stop them, if we act quickly." "Maya, show them." Maya connected her datapad to the hangar's display systems. Diagrams and equations filled the massive screens, the product of her hours of work combining human physics with what she'd learned from Oryx about cosmic harmonics. "The Void Hunters operate by disrupting fundamental forces," she explained, forcing confidence into her voice. "They create discordant frequencies that unravel the bonds holding reality together. But what if we could generate a counterfrequency? A harmonic resonance that reinforces those bonds instead of breaking them?" She brought up more technical displays. "We have the framework already. The quantum containment fields that were holding Eric's. They were trying to analyze and suppress cosmic frequencies. But with modifications, we could use them to generate and amplify specific harmonics instead." "You want us to rebuild the very weapons we used against the Dragon?" a Russian general asked incredulously. "The ones it just proved were useless." "Not weapons," Maya corrected. "Instruments. We're not trying to contain or control these forces. We're trying to work with them. The quantum fields would act like amplifiers, taking the natural harmonics Eric's can generate and extending them to cover the whole planet. It would create a resonance barrier," Oryx added. "A shell of reinforced reality that the hunters cannot easily unravel. Long enough, perhaps, for us to find a more permanent solution." The council chamber erupted in overlapping discussions, military leaders arguing about feasibility and risks. Maya felt her heart sink. They were falling into institutional patterns, seeking committees and consensus when time was running out. Then General Chen stood up. "How many quantum containment units would you need?" Maya blinked. "All of them. Every unit Earth has, positioned strategically around the planet. And we'd need to reprogram them completely, modify their field generators." "You can do it." Sarah's eyes met Maya's, and for the first time, her aunt was looking at her not as a child, but as an equal. Maya straightened her spine. "Yes, but I'll need full access to the technical teams, and we have to start now." Sarah turned to the council. The gravitational readings confirm something massive is approaching. We've all seen what it's capable of. I move that we implement. She glanced at Maya with the ghost of a smile. Project Harmony immediately, with all resources at our disposal. The vote was swift, pushed by the urgency of their situation. As the council dispersed to begin preparations, Sarah approached Maya and Oryx. "I hope you know what you're doing," she said softly. "Because we're about to bet the planet on the understanding of a teenage mechanic and a cosmic dragon." Maya looked up at Oryx, feeling the dragon's quiet confidence flowing through their connection. "The best solutions often come from unexpected harmonies," she said. "And sometimes saving the world isn't about having the biggest guns. It's about learning to listen to the right frequencies." As alarms began to sound across the base, warning of new gravitational distortions, Maya turned to her work. They had hours at most to convert Earth's defensive weapons into something entirely new. A planetary network of resonance that might just save reality itself. She'd always been good at fixing things. Now she just had to fix the fabric of space-time before it was unmade entirely. No pressure. Time became a blur of calculations and configurations as Maya led the global effort to convert Earth's defensive grid. Military bases around the world worked to modify their quantum containment units, following the specifications she developed with Oryx's guidance. The dragon's knowledge of cosmic harmonics, combined with Maya's understanding of human technology, created something entirely new, a fusion of science and celestial song. The sky had turned strange. The Void Hunter's approach distorted light itself, creating impossible colors and shadows that moved in ways shadows shouldn't. Global panic was barely contained as governments struggled to explain the inexplicable changes in Earth's environment. Maya stood in the central control center at Peterson Base, surrounded by holographic displays showing the status of containment units worldwide. Her aunt Sarah coordinated with military forces, ensuring each unit was positioned according to Maya's calculations. They needed perfect synchronization. One misaligned frequency could create a weakness in their defensive harmony. "The Hunters have crossed Mars' orbit," Oryx announced, the dragon's mental voice tense. "They're moving faster now, drawn to the concentration of reality anchors in this system. Earth's technological civilization burns bright in their senses." Maya nodded, making final adjustments to the control algorithms. "How many?" "3 world ships, each capable of unmaking a planet. More than I've ever seen hunt together." The dragon's form shimmered with barely contained power. "They remember me. They want revenge for the systems I've helped save from them. Well, they're about to remember humans too," Maya said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Final unit reports coming in now. We're as ready as we'll ever be." The vast chamber fell silent as the first Void Hunter ship appeared in near-Earth space. It was a nightmare made real. A shape that shouldn't exist, angles that bent in ways that made human minds recoil. Reality seemed to fray around its edges, physics itself protesting its presence. "On my mark," Maya called out, her fingers poised over the activation controls. She could feel the patterns, the rhythms of machines and mathematics, and matter all around her. Everything was connected. Everything sang together if you knew how to listen. Oryx. The dragon moved to the center of the chamber, power building around its form like a gathering storm. "I am ready, Harmony Singer. Let us show them what humans and dragons can achieve together." The Void Hunter ships entered firing range. Where their weapons struck, reality began to unravel. The moon's surface rippled like water as fundamental forces broke down. Earth's magnetic field fluctuated wildly, creating aurora displays visible even in daylight. Now, Maya activated the global network. Every quantum containment unit on Earth powered up simultaneously, their fields reconfigured to amplify and project rather than contain. Oryx released its power in a pure note that shook the foundations of reality itself. The effect was immediate and awesome. The containment network took Oryx's harmonic frequency and expanded it, creating a shell of reinforced reality around the planet. Where the Void Hunter's entropy weapons struck, they found not weak space-time that could be easily unmade, but a barrier of pure cosmic harmony. "It's working," Sarah called out, reading tactical displays. "Their attacks aren't penetrating the resonance field." But the hunters were ancient and clever. They adjusted their attack, focusing their weapons on specific points, trying to create destructive interference patterns. The resonance barrier flickered. "They're targeting the nodes," Maya said, watching the network status, "trying to disrupt our synchronization." She turned to the dragon. "Oryx, we need to shift frequencies. Match their attacks but inverted, like noise cancellation, but with reality itself." The dragon's eyes blazed. The mathematics would have to be perfect. A single miscalculation. Then we better not miscalculate. Maya's fingers flew across her controls, modifying the containment field harmonics in real time. She could feel the patterns, see the music of mathematics that governed existence itself. Oryx added its power, following her lead as they adjusted their defensive frequencies. The Void Hunters pressed their attack, entropy weapons working to unmake the very concepts of order and existence. But at each point they struck, Maya and Oryx's calculated harmonics met them with equal and opposite force. Reality itself became their instrument, singing a song of defiance against the encroaching void. "Look!" someone shouted. The hunters' attacks were having an unexpected effect. Where their entropy weapons met the resonance barrier, the opposing forces created new patterns, complex fractals of reinforced space-time that actually strengthened the barrier. The more they attacked, the stronger Earth's defenses became. The hunters seemed to realize this too. Their assault faltered as they encountered something they'd never faced before. A harmony so perfect it turned their own power against them. Reality wasn't unraveling under their attacks. It was becoming more real, more fundamental, its patterns locked into place by the very forces trying to destroy it. "They're retreating," Oryx announced, satisfaction evident in its mental voice. "They cannot comprehend what we've created here. A defense born of understanding rather than force, of harmony rather than dominance." The Void Hunter ships withdrew, their impossible forms diminishing until they were lost among the stars. In their wake, they left a changed Earth, not just in the visible auroras and gravitational echoes that would persist for days, but in humanity's understanding of its place in the cosmos. Maya slumped in her chair, exhausted but smiling. "We did it. We actually did it." "You did it," Sarah corrected, placing a hand on her niece's shoulder. "You saw patterns where we saw only threats, found harmony where we sought weapons. Maybe it's time we started listening to different frequencies." Oryx lowered its massive head to Maya's level. "The hunters will return eventually, with new tactics and greater numbers. But by then we'll be ready." Maya finished. "Earth knows about them now, knows what's possible when we work with cosmic forces instead of trying to control them. And we've got a pretty good teacher." The dragon's amusement rippled through their mental link. "And I, it seems, have an excellent student. Perhaps it's time I shared more of the cosmos' songs with humanity, starting with one who already knows how to listen." As the sun rose over a planet forever changed, Maya looked forward to learning those songs. She'd always understood machines, but now she understood something greater. The patterns that connected all things, the harmonies that bound reality together. And she couldn't wait to hear what other music the universe had to teach her.